Hey y'all, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to talk about the books I read in August. So August was a pretty busy reading month. We're going to go ahead and dive right in to talk about all the books I read. Some of these I talked about earlier in the month in vlogs and such. I will link all the videos down below where I've talked about these books more in depth so you can see more of my in-depth thoughts. And some of the ones that didn't have vlogs, I may talk a little bit more about than the ones I have vlogs for. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get too long-winded, but you know me. I like to talk. So anyway, all of the reviews for these books will be linked down below on my blog. Plus, I will link each book down below, whether it's Amazon or Baker Bookhouse, if it's on Baker Bookhouse's website. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book I read this month, of course, was The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. I tabbed this up, had a whole vlog talking about this book. Loved it so much. This is a powerful story just of healing from trauma through Jesus. A great salvation story. Very well developed characters. We have this LA artist named Roman Velasco and his new assistant, Grace Moore. And just everything that they go through in this story is very impactful. We have a little bit of spiritual warfare going on. It's a very emotional Christian romance story. And I highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. Francine, she never disappoints. And I just cannot wait to read more of her backlist stories. Her books are very hard-hitting, so I have to kind of take them in doses, but every time I read one, I absolutely love it. Each of our characters have a very traumatic past with their parents. See how the Lord really works in their lives. He is truly pursuing Roman throughout this story, and Grace is the one to lead him to him as well. We start off with Grace getting this new job as Roman's assistant. He is a very rich artist, and Grace is struggling to provide for her son as a single mother. And so this job is everything that she needs. And so she starts to getting to know him, and feelings start to form. We see a little bit of a relationship grow from friends to more. But it's so much more than just your typical romance story, because it truly showed forgiveness and redemption, and just our characters were really searching for their purpose first and foremost. Like we really see how Jesus is put first before the relationship, and I really like that. It was so refreshing. If you're looking for a story that's going to really touch your soul, this is it. There are some trigger warnings in here for loss of parents, drug use, alcohol, gang member mentions, domestic violence, all that stuff. So just want to mention that. Again, such a great heartfelt story that I truly love. The book I read was Friendshipped by Savannah Scott. I give this 3.5 stars. This is book 1 in the Getting Shipped series. Definitely I'm going to continue on with this series. This is a fun friends to lovers rom-com, and this is my first real rom-com, I feel like, in the clean romance rom-com journey. Okay, I had so many thoughts here. You all saw a lot of my thoughts in that vlog, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. But you know, overall I had a lot of fun with this. It has some great humor. That's what my favorite part was the humor, the friend groups, the town, the characters. That was my favorite part. The romance is what I didn't love as much, because I think sometimes friends to lovers, from what I'm understanding, can seem like miscommunication or not communicating, and just taking a while, like a slow burn, I guess, to get to where they need to be. And it's like, I need them together. So I was a bit frustrated with the romance in this, just a little bit. But either way, I think that a lot of you all would enjoy this. Savannah Scott has just the best humor. Her writing is fantastic. And overall, it was a great time. We followed Trevor and Lexi, who work together, and they live in the same duplex, and they're neighbors. And so they've been friends since they were young. So if you're someone who really likes like a like childhood friends to lovers story, this would be great. I mean, it's like they like each other, and they each don't think that each other likes each other. You know what I'm saying? If I said this right. But either way, nobody is communicating about their feelings. And so that, I know that's like common in this story, but I was like, I need them to talk. I just want them to talk. But either way, it was fine. I still really enjoyed it. There was some parts where they were like trying to go on dates with other people, more so her than him. Didn't like that either. But again, this was just so funny. Overall, a good time. I think if you're a friends to lovers person, you would like this. Everyone tells me to continue on the series. There's like 7 books I want to say in this series. Maybe 8 now. I can't remember if there's a prequel now. Either way, I'm definitely going to continue on, because not every trope is the same, right, in the series. So I need to know more about the friend group and their stories. The book I read was The Choices She Made by Felicia Ferguson. I give this 4 stars. This is a very emotional, faith-filled read, and it has some tough topics, but I felt like it was very important to read it. God did not give us a spirit of fear, and He has a plan for us, and that's exactly what this book portrays. The Lord works everything out for our good, and I loved how faith-filled this was. This book follows Madeline in 1997 and in 2011. In 1997, we follow her story of how she was sexually assaulted by the son of a wealthy rancher at the age of 17, and she becomes pregnant. And so there are trigger warnings for that content in here. I wouldn't say it's like detailed, the assault itself, but you see pieces of it, flashbacks and her emotions going through it. So I wanted to mention that trigger warning either way, because that's a big part of this book, is her emotionally working through all of this, and they end up not reporting it at all. And so see her journey in 1997 with her dad. Her mother has passed away. They're wrestling with how to handle the situation leading up to Madeline's daughter's birth. And then we cut to the timeline in 2011, many years later, and with her and her daughter Georgia, and they go to visit her father, and then they learn that the man who sexually assaulted her is now on trial for assaulting other women. And after all this time, is Madeline gonna finally tell the truth and help put him away? And that's the whole plot of the story. Overall, I really enjoyed it. Madeline had this strong faith in the Lord. It's to see how like her faith truly strengthened her in her horrible experience. She gave up everything in her life so her daughter could live a good life. And I loved her character and her relationship with her father. It was beautiful. I did prefer the current timeline over the 97 timeline, but I did tear up a couple times in the old timeline, I remember. So either way, I still really think that this was a great story about overcoming these hardships, making some tough decisions, and just having the Lord walk with you through that during this entire time. So I'm really glad that I read it. And again, the trigger warnings in this it does deal with the heavier topics of that sexual assault, discussions of abortion, and a court case against her attacker. So if any of those things are going to be triggers for you, I don't know that I would recommend this, but I just want to mention that trigger warning just so that you are aware. The next book I read was The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. This was not on my TBR. I did a whole vlog talking about this. I absolutely loved it. It was a recommendation from Oshina. You already know how much I love this book, you guys. I gave it 5 stars. It's a psychological thriller that's more family drama oriented. There is a lot of twists in this. The romance, and there's a little bit of a romance in this. We have some neurodivergent representation, which I absolutely loved as an autism mama. That was great to see. Fern and Wally are the best. Every time she called him Wally, I was cracking up. It was such a great story. I gave it 5 stars. I binged this, read this in one day. I want to say it was one day. I don't know. I was like, what? Like, left and right with this, okay? Those 2 sisters, Rose and Fern, and they're twins. Rose has taken care of Fern her entire life, and Fern is neurodivergent, has some sensory problems. Rose is unable to get pregnant, and Fern sees this as an opportunity to help her sister and everything she has done for her. So she secretly sets out to find a father for this baby, and things kind of go on from here when she meets Wally, but she like starts to fall in love with him. Never expected this. We see secrets from the past start to unfold, and it's just a good time. Highly recommend. I'm gonna tell y'all what you think is gonna happen ain't happening. I'm gonna just say it's so good. I don't even know what to say. I have a whole vlog on this. I'll link it, but it was just amazing. Like, as far as content warnings go, this book does have some language, but not much. There are some journal entries in this that do have some hard topics that depict child abuse, but very easily skippable. The next book I read was Summer in the Spotlight by Liz Johnson. This is book 3 in her Prince Edward Island Shore series. Book 1 is Beyond the Tides. Book 2 is Last Way Home, and this was book 3. And I gave this 4 stars. I really have enjoyed the book 2 and 3 in this series, more so than book 1. This one is a Save the Local Theater storyline. Cute romance, clean, Christian. Not a lot of faith elements, but there are some sprinkled throughout. Family drama, and a small town romance, that Prince Edward Island setting as well. Very cute. We have Levi and Kelsey. They end up working together to restore the local theater that gets damaged as an aftermath of this hurricane that Levi rescued Kelsey in. And I really like the beginning when Levi is like rescuing her from this hurricane. It was great. Levi is very rough around the edges. He doesn't talk much, but he really grows in this story. Kelsey, she experienced some good growth as well, specifically surrounding hospitals and her fear of seeing blood. We see some of her growth in that, and it was just a really cute small town romance that I enjoyed. I wish that we did have a little bit more faith in here, but overall it was cute. The next book I read was Cloak of Scarlet by Melanie Dickerson. This is book 5, I think, the Daracot Tales series, and this is a fairy tale retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, pretty much, and it's a clean YA historical romance as well, so has some faith elements throughout. I think I always like the faith elements in here because you can obviously see them, like they're usually praying to God or thinking about the Lord, all of that. Always like that, seeing that in here. Our main couple is Sir Merrick and Violet. I give this 3.5 to 4 stars. I rounded it up to 4 stars. I still really enjoyed this series. I liked what was happening. I don't know that I connected with the characters in this one as much as I have in some of the other books, but still I enjoyed my time reading this. They're always a good time. This has enough of the basics of the retelling for Little Red Riding Hood to be a retelling, but enough of a twist to be its own story. And I always like that with all of these, really. That's how it goes. So very lighthearted, cozy feeling. It's set in the late 1300s in England. We follow Violet, who was adopted and loves to visit her grandmother in this red cloak, okay? Violet's grandmother is robbed by the villain, the Baron, and Violet kind of finds herself in the middle of this action-packed story, and she's going to do anything to stop the Baron from mistreating her people and stealing from them. And so then we see Sir Merrick come in, who is a knight of the Baron, but when he meets Violet, of course, he discovers what the Baron has been doing, and, you know, he just sees how truly evil he is. And then Sir Merrick and Violet kind of work together, a romance starts to form, all of that stuff, and we see them getting to know each other. This is a lot of fun. I liked our characters, but don't know, again, that I truly connected with them like I have some of those other characters. So I'm excited to read book 6 in the series. I've got it on NetGalley already. I did have this on NetGalley to honestly read and review. And yeah, 3.5, rounded up to 4 stars. If you like fairy tale retellings, this is just a really great series. And honestly, you could read this as a standalone, I feel like, because I don't remember anything that spoiled any of the other books. And even said in Goodreads, this whole series is kind of a standalone series. I do feel like book 2 kind of spoils a little bit from book 1, but the rest of them feel very separate from what I've read so far. So yeah, if you're looking for a good fairy tale retelling YA series, this is a good one. Next book I read was Connilyn Cossette's Voice of the Ancient. This is book 1 in her King's Men series. I gave this 4 stars. I also read the prequel novella, The Wedding Gift, before I read this, and it was very short. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars, and it really kind of gave you an introduction to these cousins that you follow in the main series. This is a very great coming of age story. It's a biblical fiction, but it has fictional characters in a biblical setting. This is basically a warrior for King Saul meets a runaway bride. This whole series is following these teenage cousins. They have strong bonds, and this one follows Avidan as the main character in here, and this girl Keziah. He's the warrior for King Saul. She is the runaway bride, and they meet, their paths cross, and everything goes on from here. Very great start to the series. I'm excited to see what she does next. The way that she weaves in these fictional characters during biblical times is always amazing. It's just wonderful to see. It's like it's almost like they're truly in this biblical time of King Saul taking his reign. Very interesting. Avidan and his cousins have a very strong brotherhood. In this one, we're following mostly Avidan and his search to find one of his cousins that goes missing in the battle together. He goes on this search alone to find him, and that's where his paths cross with Keziah. She's the daughter of a powerful clan chief in Manasseh who goes on the run from a forced marriage to a terrible man. And the story kind of goes on from there, and things start to get revealed, and they start to have feelings, a bond is formed, all of that stuff, and they start to realize what's most important to them and the true protection of Yahweh. It did feel a little bit of YA for me because the characters were so young and a little bit insta-lovey. The romance was a little bit fast for me, but it definitely makes sense in the biblical time. I can usually forgive more of like that insta-love stuff back in the biblical times. It made sense. Overall, this book keeps you on your toes, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a good biblical fiction that kind of is more that generational coming-of-age story. The book that I listened to on audio is How to Kiss Your Best Friend by Jenny Proctor. This was so much fun. It was a sweet rom-com. I laughed. The greatest humor. Gave it 4 stars. Childhood friends to lovers where the main characters end up reconnecting after so many years apart. He falls first. There's a slow burn. Main characters are Brody and Kate. He is a chemistry teacher and a kayaker who trains other people to kayak. And Kate, she is the journalist and traveler of the group. Okay, like I said, 4 stars. Very cute, clean, all that stuff. I'm so glad to have another rom-com down this month. I really enjoyed the characters, the family, the small town vibes in this one. This is like the Hawthorne Brothers series, and they're hilarious. I can't wait to read more in this. Brody and Kate, they were best friends growing up, but Kate took some time to travel over the years. And what's going on in her family life, she took time to go do some things by herself. And now she's back in her hometown of Silver Creek to sort through her grandmother's house after she had passed away to kind of get it ready to sell. And Brody is taken back to how much he loves her. He's always loved her, and he wants to reconnect with her and hope that she'll stay in town for good. And the story kind of goes on from here. This was really great. What I loved about this is like There was some times that I wish they would have talked and got together sooner, but it's a slow burn. It's meant to be that way. And I actually liked it because we got to see a lot of their family members, and it stood out among the crowd because we got to know the other brothers and their friends and family and all that. So that's something I really liked, and know about their grandparents, all this stuff. I really felt connected to this small town and the people that lived there. So I grew up in a small town, so I always love a good small town story, and the humor was hilarious. The towel scene, if you know, you know, that towel scene had me rolling. That's all I can say. So it was hilarious. So great that this is clean, a little bit of sizzle, but no explicit spicy scenes. We live to see it. The next book I read was Denise Hunter's Autumn Skies. This is book 3 in her Bluebell Inn series, but you could read it as a standalone. There really wasn't anything that spoiled me for any of the other books. And I read this as a recommendation from my friend Amy. She really enjoyed this story, and I did really like it, but there's some things I didn't love, so I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, but that's still a great rating from me, because to me, the 3.5 stars means that I enjoyed parts of it, but then there's some parts that kind of fell flat, but overall, it was a good time reading it, right? And so I liked it, but didn't love it. This is about our main characters of Wyatt and Grace. I do think part of my issue is I listened to a lot of this on audio, and the narrator was just terrible. So I feel like that's part of why I didn't love it as much, but who knows? I don't know. The audio, what do y'all think? I think the audio we're going to really, truly impact my reading experience. 9 times out of 10, if I got a bad audio narrator, I'm like, I don't understand. I'm not tracking with this, you know? And I think that's what happened to me sometimes in this. Either way, this is about Wyatt and Grace. And Wyatt is a Secret Service agent. He takes this mandatory leave of absence that leaves him turning up to Bluebell Inn where he meets Grace. Both have like this mystery of baggage that we don't know about. So I liked that a lot, to kind of know like, what's going on with them in their past. And little bits are starting to be revealed throughout the story. Grace, we see, has survivor's guilt from something that happened many years ago. Wyatt is experiencing this trauma surrounding his mother's death. And so, but we don't really see what happens until the end. And I was more shocked. I was really shocked at that part. Like, what happened? I was like, girl, what? So I liked like the ending of how this ended and stuff. Very interesting how Denise tied all of this together between these two characters. That was great. That's my favorite part, more so than the romance. I think that I liked how the characters went on these camping trips and they got stuck together, so they had to get to know each other. That's always a fun trope. But the reason I think I didn't love this 100% is it's a bit, again, bad narrator. But number 2, there was some insta love. I felt like it was insta love a little bit, you know. For me, insta love is different for every person. For me, even if they know each other for a couple of weeks, I still feel like and they're saying love you. To me, that's kind of insta love. And so I know that's different for every person, but that was, you know, kind of what took me down a little bit. But again, it was not bad. I recommend this if you are someone who loves those cozy Christian romance stories. This is going to be a good one. This would be a good fall read as well. 3.5 stars, and I'm definitely going to read more of Denise's books. I've got several of her books on my Kindle, on my shelf. She's kind of hit or miss with me sometimes, so yeah, I'm going to continue to read more of her books and see what I think. All right, y'all, so I finally finished it. Waymaker by Voskamp. Wow. Took me like 3 months to go through this, but it's a beautiful Christian nonfiction. It's just so amazing to see her story from, you know, her getting married and struggles in marriages and, you know, adoption, and just, it's such a raw story. I cried. It's relatable. She has a very unique journaling poetry style in this book that makes it very interactive to read. So there's sometimes I didn't fully grasp what she was trying to say sometimes, so I think I need to go back through it. But I think this is a book that you could reread and get something different out of it every time. Overall, I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It's just a very beautiful, poetic Christian nonfiction. I can't say enough. Just pick it up, dive into it, see what you think. You're definitely going to get something out of it. Next book I finished was the first book in the Sailor Moon manga. I already talked a little bit in the vlog that I recently posted. I give this 4 stars. It's really hard to rate something like this because it's very nostalgic for me personally. I loved it growing up. I've already talked a lot about that on the channel here. I had a fan club, my friends. It was a lot of fun in middle school. And, you know, after reading book 1, I still enjoy this series, but I do have some issues from a Christian perspective, and as an adult rereading it, I just have a different viewpoint now. And so, you know, let's start with what I love. I love the Sailor Scouts, their friendship, our main girl, Sailor Moon, being so ditzy and funny. Luna, she's a talking cat, hilarious. She's always trying to like help her out. And the overall storyline of like the past and Tuxedo Mask helping and coming in here, the humor throughout this, it's great. What I'm not crazy about and what I don't think is appropriate for young readers, this is fairly rooted in astrology. It's not a ton, but there are some places where that's involved and pulled in. There's also some Shintoism parts in this. A worship of deities are mentioned with one of the Sailor Scouts, and because she is like at a shrine where she lives and works and stuff. Tuxedo Mask is always like kissing Sailor Moon when she passed out over a fight. He whisks her away to his apartment. He's 17, she's 14. There's nothing that happens between them, but that was not my favorite thing to see, and I'm a bit more forgiving of it because I know they're true, like what they're meant to do and meant to be in the long run and in their past. But I still didn't love seeing all that sometimes, and but I want to mention that for content reasons. So, and there are some things of like reincarnation in this, so it's kind of like you have to be, again, that's the culture too of the Japanese culture in manga that you see quite a bit. So again, sometimes I'm forgiving of that stuff, but overall, I don't know, overall I still did enjoy this. I just want to point those things out so parents are aware, and readers to be aware of content. I'm still going to continue on reading the series, rereading the series as I said, but yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Now we've got Heart of Red, Blood of Blue. This is the last book I read this month. I didn't even write my review yet, y'all. I mean, I still got just top, like all I've said is amazing, beautiful, 5-star Christian fantasy, so many plot twists, read it ASAP. Like, that's it. Which I talked a lot about this in the vlog I recently posted as well. So, you know, most of y'all have probably seen that, know my thoughts, but I highly recommend this for a good standalone Christian fantasy. Our main girl's Gisela, and there's all this kingdoms and war back and forth. Some different, the allegiances are changing, and there's just so much going on here. We have this guy who's after her. She is betrothed to some bad guy. She goes on the run, ends up meeting up with some people. It's like, what's happening? I can't even hardly say because I don't want to spoil it. I feel like a lot of y'all need to go in blind with this. I will try to write my review and leave it linked down below, but overall, it's just so great. The ending, there's so many great twists in this, and just like the kingdoms and the war and stuff, it is a bit violent for some. Just want to mention that for like content, but overall it was still a great story, and I highly recommend it. I don't even know what else to say except read it. That's pretty much it for my wrap up. I've talked too long as usual, but hey, we here. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Let me know your favorite book that you read in August, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye y'all.